Hey everybody, developers, Web3 and Dell fans. This is another episode of the Java Develop podcast. And today is a marketing episode because another great CMO is my guest today. I'm having Ryan McDowell. He is the Chief Marketing Officer of Ethermon. And Ethermon is a cross-platform blockchain game revolving around a growing NFT collection of beautifully illustrated monsters or months. So Ryan, it's a great pleasure and honor to have you on our podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
You know, I especially love to talk to marketers because marketing is the very pain of every crypto blockchain project. And it is almost harder to find a good CMO of a project than to hire and find a good blockchain developer. I know this pain very well. So let's start with your personal story, Ryan. How did you get into the blockchain space and how did you become Chief Marketing Officer of Ethermon?
I think like a lot of our team right now, because we were a community takeover project, we actually started as players. So we had full-time jobs on the side, different career paths back in 2018. And we all started as very big blockchain and gaming enthusiasts, right? So this was the crosshairs for me between, Pokemon nostalgia. As a kid, I used to play Pokemon. I'm sure a lot of people now kind of look back at that era and like with a bit of nostalgia and how do we reinvent that, right? So I was actually working across video production, wearing a lot of different hats, running my own video production studio. And then I got into administration and higher ed. So I was working at MIT for 3 years doing student leadership development. Before that, then moving into kind of like teaching and learning science and things like that, always in communication roles. So I find that I've always gravitated towards anything that I can do that I'm communicating with audiences, figuring out really what people have resonate with them and how they can connect more fully to great products, great games, and great concepts. So that's kind of my Frankensteinian journey all the way to CMO of a blockchain gaming startup. It's been really interesting to kind of make that transition from player to full-time team member, which I think is quite unique in Web3. And that's something that is really common with our organization, is really drawing talent out of the community from people who actually already care about what we're doing rather than just doing a job, and doing that role.
If I'm not mistaken, Gary Gensler, the current CAC commissioner, recently, a couple of years ago, made a lecture course about blockchain in MIT. And I listened to a lot of questions regarding economics, but from technical side, he performed very well. Do you recommend to listen to his course?
Always, yeah. He's a brilliant mind. Anything really coming from MIT's professional education department is excellent. A lot of blockchain content there. Yeah.
So how do you think where he does perform best, as a CAC commissioner, or where he perfectly maybe damages industry, or as a blockchain lecturer at MIT educator?
I'm sure he has just as much clout on both sides of that. I'll leave it to other people to decide. But yeah, okay. It's definitely a great resource. Definitely a great resource.
Amazing. I will ask you about learning Web3 a bit later. But is it hard to be seeing more of a blockchain project? How is your working day looking like typically?
It varies a lot, and it is quite challenging because we're wearing a lot of hats in blockchain land, I guess. It's a bit startup-y, even though our organization's been around for 5 years. The game has taken a lot of different shapes and forms, and we're always reinventing ourselves. So it feels in crypto that you're always aging faster, that time's a little condensed. 3 months in crypto, they say, is like 3 years in the normal world. So it's been quite an experience for the past 6 months taking this full-time role. I think the biggest challenge of being a CMO is really distilling complex and difficult to get onboarded with products. Like there's a lot of steps to start with blockchain gaming into something that's easier to understand and that really resonates with people. We're all doing something very new, and it's an emerging space. Technologies come out every day that makes our lives easier and allows us to do completely new things. So we really have to be up on the cutting edge of what's possible, and how do we get for our players the best gameplay experience and the best community experience on top of that. I know you're going to want to talk about Web3 and maybe what's different, so I'll leave that for other questions. But I think that's a big challenge in being the CMO of a blockchain gaming company, is really understanding how and having empathy for the players, right? And how they can approach the space, especially if they come from traditional gaming.
Definitely, you have anticipated the next question. For current marketers who are listening and watching us right now, do they maybe to join on Web3 or not join? It's hard to be there. How would you define the main difference between marketing in Web2 and in Web3?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and we're thinking about this all the time. It's usually buzzwords that people throw around: Web2, Web3. What do they really mean? Same thing with metaverse. I think what we're really talking about is a paradigm shift to decentralization, to player-owned assets, to like this whole different way of viewing work as more of a bottom-up thing, where the work is coming from people wanting to be involved in something, contribute, right? So with CMOs, it's similar, right? You're not really manipulating people into doing something, although of course, like there's a lot of scams and very hyped up blockchain projects and PFP drops. That's probably the noisiest part of the space. For us, we've been around for a long time, and we really want to deliver the best experience, right? So if you want to really get empathetic with the problems of people joining Web3, and if this is your thing that you really like, it has to be worthwhile for you, because it's not a simple environment. It's a very fast-moving, complex environment. So I think if you really want that challenge and you want to understand in the most, I guess, grueling perspective-taking way, then I recommend becoming a CMO, because that's really allowed me to understand the whole industry much better. Going from a player to this perspective, where I actually have to have like a more 360 view of the whole environment. I think that's the best education you can get in this space.
Great accommodation. I love it. Well, let's dive into Ethereum One. What is Ethereum One? How to earn money by playing Ethereum One?
Yeah, so we're a play and earn game. We're actually the first play and earn battle PvP game on Ethereum. So back when CryptoKitties and a lot of these games were kind of introducing gamified aspects to collecting. So like breeding, simple things where you're kind of gamifying it, but it doesn't really feel like a game yet. It feels more like a hopped up collectible. What we were introducing is like battle tournaments and things that you could actually, improve the value of your NFT by playing with it, not just holding it and flipping it and selling it and trading it. It was more about, you have this asset that you can grow and improve the value of. And then, after you've put in 3 months of work into it, it's worth much more than when you started with it. So we were really excited by that concept originally. I know I was as a player. This idea that you actually have this asset that's part of a game environment that you can improve and even like transform to a higher form, like, the Pokemon evolutions. We have that mechanism too, where you can, once you reach a certain level and you have certain requirements for that monster, you can level it up into a higher NFT that's even more rare. So now you have this whole gamified experience where you're actually earning, not just buying very rare, valuable NFTs. So that's where we started. And we had when I was a player in 2018, there was actually another company that was running Ethermon based in Singapore, and they exited the company, or they exited Ethermon in 2018 to 19 during the bear market. So we actually took it over as a community members and players. So 3 of us took it over. I was still doing contracts and things like that, but they made a full-time position and they grew it over time. They got funding, they redid the tokenomics. And then we started thinking about, as a whole community, what's next for us? So everyone's talking metaverse, Decentraland, Sandbox, all these MMO inspired sort of experiences that are possible. And a lot of people were promising it. So we're like, why don't we dive in, buy a big piece of land in Decentraland? So we acquired the 8th biggest district in Decentraland, and we've rehashed that whole space over the past year as a MMO inspired game. So you can actually go in and have a 3D version of the monster you used to have in 2D, and you can play with that in this MMO sort of open world experience, right? And that's just opened up a whole new can of worms for us in terms of gameplay, and it's made the game much more sticky and allowed us a lot more playability in Decentraland. Yeah, so that's yeah.
I may suppose that, like every wise marketer, you would have taken the target audience of Pokemon players, which were popular in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, and targeted the ads for them. Or I will ask, how many Pokemon players in past are already on board into Aethermon, because Aethermon is sort of Web3 Pokemon, right?
You know, it's funny because it's a joke in the space. There's like a million Pokemon-like games. Everyone says they're a Pokemon-like game. And then how do you differentiate yourself with all that noise and bring in people who loved Pokemon, who still do, because there is still Pokemon games, right? There's still Pokemon tournaments happening, Pokemon Go, all of these things. But they know their limits, Pokemon, and they're not really trying to do too much Web3 that I've seen. So it's kind of stuck in Web2 in my eyes. So now we have this whole layer of Pokemon-like Web3 games that are being remixed and really like kind of hacked into new imaginations of what Pokemon could be. So we actually use Fakemon artists. So we've really empowered Fakemon artists to get paid for their work. There's a whole Fakemon artist community that just does this out of passion. They love making like Pokemon-like characters, and there's a whole community that imagines what these characters will do. So we're breathing life into those characters, and I think that's part of it, is allowing community members to draw a character that comes to life and then is rendered in 3D for gameplay. So that's like part of the game nostalgia is coming through the artists. Some of it is coming through the gamers. People are developing mini games and bots. So we're empowering our whole community to actually become game developers in mini games as well. So I think it's really allowing people to, we talked about Web3 a bit, like become creators in this new wave instead of just consumers. It used to really be like you would just play on your Game Boy, right? And that's it. That was the end of your experience. Now you can make the games that are in the Game Boy, right? As part of a community, and you can talk to people who are also playing. You're not just in your car, in your mom's backseat, playing your Game Boy anymore. You're a part of this whole community, even as a young kid who's thinking about becoming a developer. So I really think that's the exciting wave that we're seeing now.
Let's give some glory to Aethermon team. Who are these brave guys who have been building Aethermon?
Sure. So we have a team of about, a lot of us are contractors, so it's about 30 to 50. It depends on the given month and what the needs of the project are. We have a core team of about 6, who's really the leadership of the whole project. We have a 2D lead who runs the website play.ethermon.io, which is the battle-based tournament game. And then we have a 3D lead. So 2D lead is Aiden, and he was also one of the original founders. He's a co-founder of this. And the 3D lead is Eric, who is also the second co-founder. They're the top, they used to be the top 1 and 2 players. So they have a battle between them of who was the better player back when we started as players. And they took over in these roles, and I don't think they have much time to play as they wish anymore, but that's those are their leadership roles now. So we also have a really strong development team on the 3D side. We work with a studio called Polygonal Mind, as well as a contractor for the 3D requirements of the project. So anything from like building new characters to buildings to environments in Decentraland, that's all in partnership with Polygonal Mind and our strong 3D team. And then we have a 2D team, which is kind of separate from that works on all of the web browser-based game aspects. So these are the 2 sides of the house, and then everything else is really about supporting the whole machine. So we have artists and designers, web developers, community managers. It's really been growing organically. And in Web3, you see a blurred line between who's actually on the team and who's a community member, right? A lot of people are taking active roles and contributing and giving feedback and testing and doing QA that I think usually would be hired straight up, but we're allowing people to get involved in small amounts and then find their fit within the company as they progress in their skills and in their understanding of their game and of the game and what they might contribute. So that's kind of the blurry answer, is that the team is always growing because of that community engagement.
That's an amazing strategy. I love it, to engage the community members into the market, because all the community member they are native marketers. They may recommend, they may spread the seed of a game. That's the best, one of the best strategy. And at the moment, by the way, as an amazing big community of more than 260,000 of community members, it's quite large. It's not an easy task to manage such a community. What are the tips and life hacks of community management? How does community management work in that moment?
Yeah, so we have an amazing community of people who are self-starters, right? So a lot of people are in our community. We actually tell people from the beginning as they enter, like, look around, see what you can contribute. Where do you see like problems? Maybe you could be the person to help solve those problems. So we've, you had this great phrase, native marketers. The community members are native marketers. They're the people who spread the word. They're also the people who understand the problems the best because they're playing the game every day. So often when we get very busy in the leadership team, it's hard to get all of the perspectives of our players in our own team, right? Because we're not dealing with all of the day-to-day play in as active a way as they are. So really creating that feedback loop between the community and the core team who does the development work is crucial to the success of a blockchain game, because there's so many bugs that pop up. So we've really created that tiered system where you can get recognized in your status in the community, the more you contribute. So we have a very strong moderator program to moderate the community, especially in Discord. Discord's kind of our life force right now. And that's where a lot of the activities happen. We have server games. So people have made mini games on Discord to re-experience Ethermon in different ways. And a lot of that is just driven by their own proactive development. They just decided like, okay, I'm going to do this. Is this fine? And we say, of course, that's fine. Do you need any resources from us? How can we help you accomplish your visions and grow this community and all the things that we have to offer our NFT holders, right? Because we're always trying to drive utility back, and getting the community involved helps that. So it's been a lot of people stepping up is the spirit of Ethermon. It's very much like a DAO in spirit, and we're moving towards a legitimate DAO over time as we really grow what that looks like. DAOs are kind of in their infancy right now. No one really knows what they are. It's just a loose way of saying we're decentralized, but what does that really mean? How do you empower people to contribute across an organization? So that's kind of the spirit we're bringing in everyone with. Yeah.
That's an interesting remark. You've mentioned DAO. Some projects have already announced that they will be moving towards DAO from a sort of centralized mode. Don't you have such plans?
We do. Yeah. Yeah, we do. So this is something we've had. We do a weekly community call, and it's something that we always talk about as a community. It's also something that we constantly talk about as a core team, and the best way to transition into this DAO from a more centralized company into something that's very flat, right? So it's complicated. You have to have even more rules and responsibilities in a DAO. You have to have everything kind of written out and explicit so that you know what happens in certain situations, how you do governance, how you hire and fire as a DAO, like how you manage people and performance reviews. It's quite complicated, and people who just jump in saying like, oh, we're going to be a DAO because it's decentralized, might not always know what they're getting into, because there's a lot of things that pop up that you might not expect. So that's what we're trying to move towards, is first, get the culture right so that we're a DAO-like culture, and get the technology right so that the technology is ready to allow us to make that transition with governance. And then the next step would be to really make that transition by allowing people to vote on the direction of the game in a more active manner, not just as a feedback loop, but actually having, kind of a weighted meritocracy. So everyone has their merit in the community weighted by maybe how much skin they have in the game, like how much they own in terms of the token, the NFTs, but also like how well they understand the game is the harder thing, right? You can't just have some wealthy whale come in and ruin the game because they don't really understand it, but they have the funds, right? So there's a lot to consider there, and we're actively having that conversation now.
Yeah, I completely get that. Building DAO or transforming DAO. It's not easy task. That's a kind of philosophical moment. You have already mentioned that the mall has two dimensions. First is two-dimension or 2D and 3D dimension version of the mall. What's the difference between players' experience in this version and 3D compared with 2D?
Yeah, so the browser-based game, you can probably spend anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes a day and have quite like a bit of success with that. So you're not really there to like explore and immerse yourself in the game. You're really there to be strategic. So you have your strategic team formation, you attack other teams, you work your way up the ladder for prizes every week. So the 2D game is really about that. It's about team formation strategy, having a great collection, seeing how you can like beat other players in those ladder tournaments. So the 3D version is very different. It's about an immersive experience where you can actually, build a relationship with your character in different environments, right? And really accumulate loot and experience and achievements over time in a way that's more of a typical MMO experience where you're really developing your own adventure and journey through this metaverse landscape. So we have a town center that's basically a plaza that's beautifully built. All of those buildings are slowly getting utilities like stores and player houses where they can upgrade and store their loot and things like that. And then we also have what we're calling biomes. So we've developed 2 biomes so far. One has been released and is in alpha testing. So it's been played with for the past maybe 6 to 8 months by alpha testers and just players that are going in. We're basically live testing that through gameplay. And then the next phase of this is to open up more biomes where when you defeat the battle boss at the end of the biome, you open up the next basically like battle area. So you're progressing through the game and you can endlessly go through that process and have a more challenging experience each time with bigger loot. So we're trying to create like an infinite loop of experience. That's really the only way that blockchain games can work, is you have endless playability. Otherwise, once you defeat it, it's done, and the blockchain experience is moot. There's no point to having the blockchain game. So for us, it's really important to have that endless playability, both in the ladder tournaments where it's a weekly tournament, and this where it's an endless, just individual journey.
Well, let's emphasize again how non-fungible tokens or NFTs are specifically utilized in Atomon functionality there.
Sure. Yeah. So at the basic level, the whole game revolves around NFTs. So your Mon or digital monster is an NFT. Anyone can start the game with 3 off-chain like starter monsters, but those are not NFTs. Those are just to get you kind of like through a trial period where you can test out the game and see if you want to buy. So that's the off-chain sort of version of our NFT. We have currently, I think we have over 300,000 NFTs in circulation. So we have over 300 classes of Mons where you can, that's where the team formation comes in, because you want to build the strongest team formation of these classes. And those can be mixed and matched for different reasons as we change the tournament requirements. So we have probably about 9 attributes per Mon, where it's like the typical battle stats like speed and power, attack and defense, and also HP. So there's 6 stats, battle stats for each one. And then we also have things like their form, their generation, their rarity, there's, which also influences their supply. So we have all of these aspects kind of coalescing into what a monster is uniquely. So every single one of these non-fungible monsters is really unique. And down the road, we might add more aesthetic traits to show that they're more unique. Right now, every single mon of the same class looks the same, but that might not always be the case. We're actually upgrading some of the NFTs now. All of the NFTs on Ethereum are getting a big facelift, and they're all getting like proper backgrounds. They'll look a bit more like Pokemon cards, but just a little more like Web3. So not as much information because all that information is digital, but just the background will be added now instead of just the transparent PNG file. So we're always looking at how can we like level up these NFTs aesthetically? How can we give them more utility? Like, okay, what does it look like in 3D? And then what does it look like maybe in sandboxes like voxels, right? So it's more blocky and it's a different aesthetic. But the NFTs themselves are interoperable. So you can have one NFT across all these experiences, and you'll be improving the value of it the more experiences you have with that NFT, because you'll be adding like achievements and milestones to that blockchain information, right? So that's the core of our experience now. And we are going to expand that experience drastically with avatars. So you can look at Mons as your digital pets, and avatars are you. So it's actually the avatar that you would be having in Decentraland, for example. We're dropping a big collection of these humanoid-like avatars. They're kind of like the guardians of these Mons. And those will have very significant utility, not just in the gameplay as buffs and things like that and special loot drops, but also we're adding financial instruments like staking, which will require you to have this specific NFT in order to stake your tokens. So that's a really exciting advancement. We're calling them legends in line with our legendary community. So that's coming up in June, and we're really excited to have that big expansion of our ecosystem.
And what about the market of such Mons NFT? Does it still exist? It's possible to buy Mons somewhere on the marketplaces. What's going on with their prices?
Yeah, so we have two secondary markets. We have our own marketplace, which so far has been on ETH. We've actually migrated most of our development to Polygon. Polygon is just a better experience for our players. It's much faster, much more affordable than transacting on ETH. So that's where most of our development is happening on Polygon. So we have a secondary marketplace on our side in ETH, and then we have both marketplaces, ETH and Polygon, on OpenSea. So you can go on OpenSea and you can find the Mon of your dreams and purchase that Mon very easily from another player. We also have an official store that we're in the process of clearing out right now and making ready for the next wave of new Mons, because we're going to be releasing a new collection of 100 Mons. So that's on our site. And then for the avatar that I mentioned, the Legends, that will be a standalone mint experience, kind of like your typical PFP project. So it will be on its own site, legends.ethermon.io, and that's where you'll be able to mint those specifically. And then they'll be, of course, on OpenSea for the secondary sales. So that's, I think I answered your question about
definitely. Yeah. And ask about the price of NFT, because the problem of price and predictability was so strong in the beginning of the NFT era. And the time I would love to ask you a kind of professional question from our team. The Envelop team has been developing, because, by the way, Envelop is also DAO, and we've been developing sort of wrapping protocol for NFTs. It's quite easy concept. If you're not familiar, I'll explain. It allows to take an NFT to add for it any fungible tokens, let's say Ethereum, USDT, BSD, or so on. Add some useful features for that, such as time, event lock, or royalties, or rental mechanics, and create a wrapped NFT. Technically, it's the same NFT with the same metadata, but it acts like a container or a back or wallet with fungible crypto inside. So its price becomes more predictable, not less than cryptos inside. And finally, this concept and technical solution leads to dozens of use cases of utilizing such wrapped NFT, and especially in play to earn. For example, it allows to rent an NFT inside the play to earn game. or to lend or to borrow an NFT. I would love to ask you, what are your main thoughts on that concept? Could it be useful for Ethermon, for instance?
Yeah, so it sounds, and I'm not the technical lead on our team, so I might not be the best person to speak to this, but it sounds like a lot of the things that we're already functionally doing through smart contracts. So I'm familiar with wrapped tokens. I haven't often heard, maybe I'm just ignorant, and I'll resolve that after this, but of NFTs needing to be wrapped. Maybe they just are, and I'm not aware of how our smart contracts are functioning like that. But we do have all those things like rental markets, and I think I'd have to check in with our team to see technically what would be benefited by that if we don't have that. But it is interesting when you're talking about is custodianship really? Is that the benefit of wrapped NFTs? So you can have escrow and
say it again, please.
Is custodianship the benefit of wrapped NFTs or?
No, the custodian question works like in any case of any crypto, or if you are custodial, you offer custodian. If you are non-custodial, so my revenues here are non-custodial, so up to service.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. You can sell me on it if you think that.
No, we're just collecting the testimonials or responses, because this is a sort of our making a discovery. We use such the podcast format for talk to understand what do people think about it. You know, when I'm explaining this concept to ladies who founded the digital fashion, I explain, let's imagine digital jacket or digital jeans and digital pocket with crypto inside would be useful or not, or digital Prada leather wallets, Web3 leather wallets, Prada branded with crypto inside.
Literal wrappers.
Okay, can you imagine concept? Okay, let's go further. Love to ask you, is it hard to find or hire a good chief marketing officer for a blockchain product? May you suggest some tips or recommendations or mistakes a product do in searching and hiring good CMO?
I think it's challenging to find good people in general in this space. It's a very challenging space to hire in. So I think there's a lot of people who might not be representing what they're doing on the developer side. I know I get spammed daily with inauthentic requests to join our team. So I think people have to be very vigilant about their cybersecurity and hire fantastic smart contractors and people who can really be trusted with the entirety of the project, because you hear about rug pulls every day. Now, for someone in a chief marketing officer role, it's a little less of a liability. So there's maybe the biggest liability is just representation. Well, maybe I should reframe that. It's maybe the biggest liability because you're representing the whole project, right? So you have to really understand the audience in multiple ways. What they know and don't know as you introduce things. We're actually actively shaping the space as marketing leads of these companies. We're telling people what the space is, what to value, what we're reflecting back the community spirit at Broadway. So I think you have to have a lot of empathy, and that's not often something that is talked about when you hire, is looking for perspective taking ability and empathy and the ability to understand the challenges that people are facing and really have a persona in mind that's realistic to the problems you're solving and not leading with the product that you're trying to create. Because this is really a needs-based role. You're trying to connect first with what do people need and help our team deliver to those needs of our player base. So it's a very empathy-driven role, and which is not often talked about, because usually you talk about positioning and branding, the media and placements and ads. But really all those things work when you have the right understanding of your audience. So I think you really need to be passionate about the space. You need to want to um, you know, go the extra mile to learn about new challenging things, even when you have a lot of other things going on that are day-to-day activities. You have to really be up on the latest. And you also have to figure out trends that are affecting the company. So I think, it helps for a CMO to have real experience in Web3, not just marketing experience, because they are very different. And we're very community driven in Web3. So you really need to understand how communities function and how, I guess, how to not just manage those, but like inspire them to do things together. And you have to be a bit of an organizer in that way. So I think you need a lot of hats in Web3 that might not be needed in traditional marketing roles, because I've had a lot of different roles in the marketing sort of sector of professional life. And this is special. It's things are moving in a very different way, and you really have to trust people to help you market alongside you. It's a lot more on the ground, I think. So I don't know how to exactly look for that person. I always advise looking inside your communities first. Look at the people who are already interested in your project. Try to inspire people to take on more and more responsibility within your community so that you can develop really a pipeline of talent with people who already care about the subject and aren't looking for, just a job, right? So I think that's the beauty of Web3, is it's really empowering people to quit jobs they're not, making their heart sing. And a lot of us have, and we might have a lot of material success in those jobs, but we're taking a risk because this is something that's a really meaningful change. Decentralization empowers people across the world to really own their own assets and be part of something that they can contribute to and not just consume. So it's really been awesome to see those stories in our community. And I hope that other people can find CMOs. Like they basically found me from the community. I was very impassioned and really want to help grow this project. I hope other people can find that within their communities and trust that they exist, because there's so many talented people in the space.
You reminded me that we have found our CMO, Jonathan, who suggested you to me and who first contacted you from our community members.
Yeah,
that's searching for us. That has been some short degrees for you. That's the secret how to find. Look on your community, guys. And Ryan, because it's hard to find a CMO, is it possible, from your opinion, to run marketing of a crypto project without a CMO? Because every team member is also a native marketer. There's a lot of social media and so on and so forth. He may act as a marketer, of course, not consistently, not with one direction, with one simple management, but nevertheless, is it possible to run the crypto project without a CMO, with the team facilities?
Yeah, I think it's how you define that role. Maybe the CMO is a bunch of people, right? It's a group of people doing something collaboratively. So the way I look at individual roles has shifted a lot. I think I've tried to adapt to this more DAO-minded spirit of flat organizations where people have shifting roles. And maybe if you're well organized and decentralized way, you can accomplish all of the tasks the CMO individually does in a more comprehensive way, because you might have a whole team of community members who are very impassioned and have personal brands that they can leverage across Twitter and other accounts. And maybe that dedicated group and that dedicated growing group of influence, and maybe even micro influencers can kind of like a school of fish can look like a whale, right? Like maybe everyone can put in 5 hours a week and do the work of a CMO collectively. That's a really interesting question now, is what is work changing into? And can you actually accomplish the tasks of individuals who had C-suite jobs and very kind of top-down hierarchies with a more bottom-up structure of just better organized collectives around roles? So you see this with the idea of holacracies. I don't know if you've ever heard of this concept of circles, and it hasn't had many successes, but the idea is interesting, of like you have circles of people who are working in domains like marketing and trying to accomplish objectives at a higher level of the company. So, it's everyone in the company should know what we're trying to do. And then everyone should figure out, okay, like this is what I'm good at. This is who I like to work with. This is how we can work together to accomplish this part of that mission. So marketing could be broken down like that. And we have done that in a lot of ways. We use a product called Community3. We're looking at other products as well. We've used things like Gleam to kind of crowdsource marketing. There's a lot of new players in the space now that I've been talking to about really exciting things you can do with blockchain marketing because you have a lot of information on chain. So leveraging all of that, can you have micro influencers kind of achieve quest lines like a gamified marketing quest where they are accomplishing tasks that are needed by the organization, and you can even gamify your marketing, right? So that's something that we've been playing around with, and I think that we're going to see more and more exciting innovations around that over the coming years.
This is how actually DAO should work because they have no centralized management, and every member of a DAO is an active, unique marketer. That's it. Right. How to turn community members, players into fans, advocates of the brand of the game?
Yeah, I think the first thing is like, I mean, I think in the past, we've talked about this very transactionally, right? You do this, we pay you, right? You do this, we reward you. We'll give you a prize if you tweet this out. There's a lot of that in the shill sort of trend that we've seen in crypto, especially of like inauthentic marketing, right? Like very much like paid marketing in the sense that people don't really believe maybe in what they're saying, but they are doing it for money. And we find that that's not very sustainable and that it doesn't really resonate because people wisen up to that. So how do you first connect with your community? How do you have a compelling mission and a compelling story? Like for us in Ethermon, we're really trying to empower the next wave of creators in Web3, right? It's not just a Pokemon game, another Pokemon game. It's really this whole movement where people are using this Pokemon-like game to develop themselves professionally, to have fun, to learn about Web3 and the space, and to really achieve things together and make lasting relationships. And we've seen a lot of those form. And it's really amazing what a anonymous Discord community can become for people. A lot of people are finding a lot of refuge in it, especially during all the hardships of the pandemic and all these things that have isolated people. I think people are trying to connect more. So first, number one is you need to connect. You need to enable connection within your community, help people have more ways to connect with each other, and connect them with a vision that's bigger than any of us. And then the next thing is, okay, now you have to enable people to do stuff, right? So you need the scaffolding, the technology that allows people to help you market, that empowers them with like a brand kit and things to like best practices on Twitter and how to really spread the word effectively. And they can learn how to be better marketers through that process too. They're actually gaining skills that they might not even know that they're gaining as they're helping us market. And maybe they make a career out of that if they really like doing that. And that's probably how I fell into this, right? There's things I cared about. I wanted to get the word out. I did it more and more. I got better at those things, and then it becomes a career. So I think that's what we're seeing in our community is, like making fans is really about connection, resonating with people about something that they intrinsically care about, and helping them spread the word to other people who might care about it as well. So it's organic and that no one feels forced to be there, right? You don't want people being there who don't want to be there. So that's I think that's what we've really succeeded with, and I think that's what will keep us here for the long run. Yeah.
Do you gather your fans offline somewhere on meetups or events, or meet them on different other event brands? Is it working for you?
We haven't had a lot of in person yet, so I'm excited to see that come back. I mean, we're seeing a lot of conferences coming back now. We're seeing like a lot of new crypto conferences, especially blockchain gaming, NFT conferences. I haven't been to one myself yet. I'm waiting to go this summer. I'm excited to start going to some, especially just doing meetups, I think will be helpful. We're a very global team. So we're actually based, I'm based in the States. A lot of our team is based in Europe and Hong Kong and India. So we are very spread out. It's not as easy as taking a bus to see someone. So I think it's a matter of finding these natural ways of converging, because we are, like, a lot of these companies are very remote, right? And you miss that in-person connection of just having like a casual conversation that's not scheduled, right?
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's the next step is I think.
I'd love to ask you about blockchain events. One of my role offline is being an MC on events that have been in the US, but this is in the future. But what are your main thoughts on blockchain events? Because a lot of events after the pandemic take place in US, perhaps Bitcoin Miami, ETH Denver, amazing brands, Consensus upcoming in Austin, Texas, and so on and so forth. What I meant as a CMO, how would you estimate the effectiveness of blockchain events for now?
Yeah, this is probably my view of conferences in general, but I think really conferences aren't about the lectures or the presentations as much as the networking and the connections that you make. So if you can build 3 relationships from a conference, then that conference was a success. A lot of the information you can get is usually available online. So if you really just are there for the information, there's many ways to get the information. I think what people are really looking for in these events is having amazing conversations with groups of people who might not talk otherwise, right? And maybe having like more of a brainstorming, masterminding attitude about these events, where these are hubs for people to bring together ideas and to learn from each other and to take those learnings and immediately implement them with their teams. Right. So kind of a hackathon mindset. I really like hackathons for that reason, because it's all about building. It's all about, okay, what can we do with these ideas now? Not like, a conference often is you have a great insight and then it lays dormant weeks later in your mind. Right. So I think anything that can make people connect and have an action attached to it is a great event. And people, like to celebrate as well. Right. We don't celebrate enough when we're on screens like this. It's a little awkward to have like a party on Zoom. So I think people really miss that in-person connection with their teams and with other people in the space that, that we all share this really unique interest and we live it and breathe it every day. It's awesome to find other people who share that with you.
What excites you most regarding Web3, and how do you see yourself as a professional Web3, let's say in 10 years?
How do I see myself in 10 years?
Yes. Who'll be Ryan McDowell in 10 years?
That's a great question. Yeah. I'm curious where DAOs will go. I'm really curious on how these ideas that we have about how we structure things and work together to accomplish shared missions. I'd love to be part of that as a focus point, because what marketing and communications is really about is connecting people, having people understand each other better, right? And figuring out where their needs can be met, right? So I think, sorry if the notification went off, but I think that for me, I would always like to be in the hub where that's happening. I love gaming for that reason, because gaming is a exciting, fun space to learn all these things and to organize more effectively together to accomplish goals. And it's fun. We actually have fun every day because it's a game environment. I really like that transition I made from academia here. I'm having fun every day. It's always new. There's always something to learn. As long as I'm doing that and I'm with people who inspire me and talking to people who are doing incredible things like you are at Envelop, I think I'm always like able to grow and learn from that and figure out, okay, like what's DAO look like this year? And I guess it would be 2032, right? It's going to be different year to year. So yeah, I'd like to stay part of that, whether it's in marketing or otherwise. We'll see what titles we have by then.
This has been an extremely educational episode for every Web3 marketer, for every person involved in Web3 marketing. I would have wished to talk to you further, but we are all busy persons and we don't have so much time to discuss all the marketing stuff perhaps in the future. And finally, I'd love to ask you, Ryan, what's the best way to follow you on the internet? What's the best way to follow Ethermon and to join Ethermon big community?
Yeah, you can connect with us on Twitter and Discord. That's probably the best bet. So Discord is discord.gg/Ethermon, and on Twitter at Ethermon_NFT.
Amazing. All the links are in the description, ladies and gentlemen. Please give a warm line round of applause to extremely passionate Web3 marketer, native marketer, chief marketing officer of Ethermon, Ryan McDowell, has been my guest today on the Diamond Valley podcast. Please like, subscribe, share, join Web3, be a part of the community. Choose any community you like, create your own DAO, join any DAOs. And this is an amazing journey, which is already started, but we're still in the beginning. That's the main idea. Wish you a great journey. Eugene Credit MC and Ryan McDowell with you. Thank you for watching and listening. Subscribe on our channels and stay tuned for the next episode of the DAO Develop podcast. Bye-bye. Blockchain. BLOCK chain. Digital money, smart contracts, NFT, IDO, decentralization, transparency. So many opportunities, but so many challenges. Some financial manipulators, by their actions, confuse blockchain solutions and block their development. The idea that the blockchain should bring copyright and royalties protection to the next level is quite old, but the realizations of these ideas are not perfect at all. There is another problem of determining the value of a particular cryptocurrency or NFT. These and other problems need to be solved. Fortunately, the blockchain infrastructure is evolving. My name is E, Mr. E, and I represent the Envelope project. Many things have already been invented in the blockchain today. Tokens, smart contracts, platforms for creating your own coins, NFTs, exchanges for buying, selling, and exchanging all these blockchain resources. Envelope is another step in the development of crypto technologies. The protocol that works with NFT and cryptocurrencies. The idea is simple but disruptive. Let's assume you have an NFT, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Using the Envelope protocol, you can wrap the original NFT accompanied with several tokens. Technically, you get a similar NFT, but what is the breakthrough here? Once wrapped, the token has a number of additional features that were not available before. The minimal cost appears. It is provided with coins wrapped together with NFT. An asset wrapped with Envelope has a number of properties that allow the original author to receive royalties from the resale of that asset. Various rules can be applied to the wrapped token. For example, a lock period for unwrapping. It secures the asset till the determined moment or safeguards it from speculation during the hype period. At the same time, wrapped tokens can be transferred and traded. These are just some of the scenarios for using Envelope. NFTs become more popular, and the tools provided by Envelope expand the opportunities of NFTs utilization. Wide application possibilities are achieved due to the fact that, in addition to the protocol, the project includes a number of subsystems. The protocol provides functions wrapping and unwrapping. Oracle Mechanics provides asset valuation using analytical algorithms. Index provides a summary assessment of several NFT assets with the common criteria. The project has its own token, which connects all elements of the system. Altogether, this is Envelope, a tool in the blockchain world for building modern and secure systems in various fields. Find more info about the project on the website. Envelope. Make your NFT valuable. Just practical, no hype.